Matthew Arnold's John Keats is a biographical and critical essay in which Arnold reflects on the life and work of the Romantic poet John Keats. Arnold begins by emphasizing the significance of John Keats in the landscape of English literature. He contrasts Keats's genius with that of other poets, both of the Romantic era and in literary history, and argues that Keats stands out for the originality and intensity of his poetry. Keats, Arnold argues, is one of those rare poets whose work is deeply felt and profoundly moving, yet whose life was marked by suffering and early death. Keats's early life and struggles. Arnold offers a brief recounting of Keats's difficult early life, marked by poverty, the death of both parents, and the loss of loved ones. This personal history, Arnold suggests, is crucial to understanding the emotional intensity of Keats's poetry. Keats, having faced both physical hardship and emotional loss from a young age, developed a deep sensitivity to life's fleeting nature and the pain inherent in human existence. Arnold emphasizes that Keats's life was one of continuous struggle, particularly in the face of financial instability and the tragic death of his brother, Tom, which had a profound effect on Keats's emotional and creative development. Arnold admires Keats's extraordinary powers of imagination and his ability to create vivid, sensuous imagery in his poetry. He stresses that Keats's work is characterized by a high degree of sensuousness. His poetry is full of tactile, visual, and auditory detail. Arnold sees Keats as a poet who transcended the constraints of ordinary life through his extraordinary ability to bring the beauty of the world to life in verse. For Arnold, Keats's poetry exemplifies the romantic ideal of the artist as a visionary, able to extract beauty and meaning from the world's ephemeral elements. Arnold identifies beauty as a central theme in Keats's poetry. Keats's works often reflect his search for beauty in a world that he perceived as transient and impermanent. Arnold explains that this quest for beauty, for Keats, was not just aesthetic but also deeply philosophical and spiritual. Beauty was, for Keats, both a refuge from life's suffering and a profound means of understanding and appreciating existence. Arnold suggests that this idealization of beauty, while deeply moving, can also be a source of frustration, as Keats realized that beauty could never fully capture or transcend the pain of human life. Arnold explores how Keats's poetry is marked by a profound awareness of mortality and the transience of human life. Keats, having suffered from ill health for much of his life, was acutely aware of the fragility of existence. Arnold argues that this awareness imbues Keats's work with a sense of urgency and poignancy, as the poet attempts to reconcile the beauty of the world with the inevitability of death. For Arnold, this tension between beauty and mortality is central to Keats's poetic achievement. Keats's works, particularly those written during his last years, reflect a deep, almost anguished meditation on life's impermanence. Arnold also highlights Keats's intellectual development, which he views as essential to the poet's artistic maturity. Keats, unlike some of his contemporaries, was not born into a privileged literary tradition, and his early education was not as formal or systematic as that of other poets. However, Arnold argues that Keats's intellectual curiosity and his intense desire to learn about the world shaped his poetry. Keats was self-taught in many respects, immersing himself in classical literature, philosophy, and science, and Arnold believes that this intellectual openness allowed Keats to craft poetry that combined deep feeling with an informed sense of the world. Arnold emphasizes the tragedy of Keats's life, noting that the poet's early death at the age of 25 deprived the world of what might have been a long and fruitful career. Arnold laments that Keats was not fully appreciated during his lifetime, and only after his death did his poetry begin to receive the acclaim it deserved. Arnold also suggests that Keats's premature death, and the suffering that he experienced throughout his life, imbue his poetry with a sense of melancholy and resignation. Yet this tragedy is also part of what makes Keats's poetry so powerful and enduring. his ability to capture the intensity of human experience in such a brief life. Arnold notes the significant influence Keats had on later generations of poets. Despite his early death, Keats's work had a lasting impact on English poetry, particularly on the symbolist poets of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Arnold argues that Keats's ability to evoke deep emotions through sensuous imagery and his exploration of the themes of beauty, mortality, and the artist's role in society influenced poets like W.B. Yeats, T.S. Eliot, and others. The idea of the poet as an interpreter of beauty, suffering, and the complexities of life, Arnold suggests, can be traced back to Keats's legacy. Arnold reflects on Keats's place within the broader context of Romanticism. He acknowledges Keats's affiliation with the Romantic movement, particularly in his emphasis on individual feeling, imagination, and nature. However, Arnold also points out the limitations of Keats's Romanticism. For Arnold, the idealization of beauty and the focus on sensibility can, at times, result in a form of escapism, where the poet withdraws from the realities of life rather than confronting them. This, Arnold suggests, is one of the reasons why Keats's poetry, though immensely powerful, remains somewhat incomplete. It is often more concerned with transcendent beauty than with engaging directly with the complexities and contradictions of life. In his conclusion, Arnold reaffirms the enduring power of Keats's poetry. Despite the personal tragedies that marked his life, Keats's poetry has become one of the great achievements of English literature. Arnold emphasizes that Keats's ability to fuse beauty with truth, emotion with intellect, ensures that his works will continue to resonate with readers.